Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this Chinese versus Holy Roman Empire showdown. Certainly the battle of the probably two least played tournament civilizations. Nonetheless, I think they both have some potential, and this game I think illustrates both of them quite well. So spawning up on the northeast side of the map, it's going to be my Holy Roman Empire, and the Chinese opponent's going to be in the southwest, going for some very early berry bushes. Interesting. Usually you see Chinese players kind of go for the early sheep food economy, but he is going to be going for the early mill and getting an imperial official out. So this is very interesting. So I was talking to this gentleman during the game. I was like, hey man, big kudos for playing Chinese. I mean, I'm not super high up on the leaderboard, but I'm at a respectable ELO. So getting that to that point by being a China main, which I believe he was after looking through his match history, is very, very impressive for sure. So check this out. He goes with the berry mill. He immediately builds an imperial official with the extra 150 food, and then he starts supervising the mill. So what this does is essentially any workers who are dropping off resources here are going to be dropping off, I believe, 20% more. Let's see. So making it produce 200% faster, and resource drop-off buildings receive 20% more resources. Okay, so that's pretty good. So getting some extra resources there from the official. As far as my opening goes, the standard Jesus opening. So we do have the prelate here. He's going to be buffing up all these bad boys to work 40% faster and carry 40% more, which is very, very good. And typically what I do is I just obviously go around, I gather the sheep, I get the prelate to hype these guys up when I'm pretty comfortable on food and I have at least like 3 or 4 workers over on gold. Then I pull the prelate over there, and this was actually just a miss micro. I accidentally pulled my workers because I had them in the same control group, but it does happen. So early imperial official is out. Usually myself, maybe that's kind of the trick to China, is getting an imperial official out earlier. I just always find that I just feel like I'm behind in general, and my special units don't trade super well. I've noticed that a lot of high-level Chinese players don't even bother with Nest of Bees. One of the big things that's become very meta for them, at least from what I've seen, is basically just spamming out mass springalds from the clock tower landmark. Because basically, I believe they have 50% more health, so they're very tough to burn down. They can outsnipe enemy springalds, and can win the game in that way. So a little bit of scouting going through the forest. This is the high view map, so there's a ton of stealth forest here. All of this is kind of shrouded terrain. If we take a look at his perspective here, you can see this is all the mysterious forest. He is scouting down here on the southwest, and he's had these sheep on a great exodus by themselves, so you can do that. For some reason, I thought that the sheep go wild again if you're not with them long enough and they're in the open like this. We'll have to kind of keep an eye on this. We can even do a little bit of fast forwarding here as those sheep pump them sheep legs, and looks like they're moving. So I guess, yeah, they're getting the job done. It will allow his scout to go a little bit free willy. However, if my scout had come by, for example, so if I had rolled by and found those sheep while they were going back to the base, that would have been pretty bad for him. He would have lost quite a bit of food. I mean, 250 times 4 there, so that is a pretty substantial loss potentially. So we are going to be going for the Aachen Chapel, which, I mean, I like mine work if we're going all in. If I know I'm going to be doing a siege engineering push and I just want to go pedal to the metal, against some civilizations, I think that is prudent. Like against the Mongols, I don't really like playing late game against Mongols with more or less anyone. I find that when they get the step readout and trade routes going, it's very, very tough to keep up with them. So the Aachen Chapel here, I think, is probably the safer, plan, considering I want to go double TC. That's going to be my plan. I have a really nice aura. It's going to be hitting the goldstone as well as the wood here. So I should be able to get a second TC really quick because my lumber workers and my stone workers will be motivated by the Jesus coming out of the Aachen Chapel. So we continue to ride around, our scout doing its thing. Here, the barbecue of the sun, the Barbican is up, and this is a very solid landmark for China. Obviously, they're a civ that does struggle a little bit against early pressure, but where they can bloom is in the late game. If you let them get to the late game, man, oh man, they can go absolutely bananas and really give you a lot of problems. Pyrotechnics is a nice upgrade. It does give you 20% range on your powder, so basically Chinese bombard cannons can snipe enemy artillery super effectively. Compared to, bombards, I think have 10 tiles, and what does it give you, 20%? So yeah, it would go up to 12 tiles, which is the same as a springald, for example. But again, I still think spamming springalds is probably one of the more cost-effective options for China because springalds can get that additional range from the, of course, Imperial Age. So the build's going nice and good here. The prelate's going to be pumping them up, and we are going to get started on stone here, timing it with the Aachen Chapel, just kind of scouting around the map. I haven't really found too many relics yet, which was a little bit of a problem. I knew there was a relic down here. For some reason, it doesn't show. I think when I switch perspectives, it only shows me what he just discovered last time I was looking there, which is very strange. But 2 relics up top. Planning on going long, getting the Regnitz Cathedral, and outgolding my opponent. And a build I've been using recently, which you guys will be seeing here against mass springald play, because I hate using springalds. I find that maybe I'm just not as good as other people with them. I mean, I can be okay, but really, I like to just go heavy men-at-arms backed up by knights and horsemen and just basically brute force your opponent down. Springalds are very static, right? So you can typically maneuver around the map, and if your opponent is massing springalds, which most players will do, the men-at-arms, of course, can kind of sit defensively in your base behind keeps, which you can repair repair with the Holy Roman Empire auto repair or emergency repairs. And then you have a bunch of cavalry basically just running around the map, harassing and, just giving problems, really. So the second TC is going to be coming out here. As far as what China is doing down here, Barbican, very standard. They have the stables as well, so I would imagine maybe a couple basic horsemen will come out. No, it's actually scouts. So he is going to be going for Grand Theft Venison. And I saw this during the game, and I was like, okay, I invested in double TC. He invested in Grand Theft Venison. I thought about trying to catch up to him, like maybe I go up, get the professional scouts upgrade. But at this point, I was like, you know what? He's already probably grabbed most of the deer on the map. I'm not going to have the most success there. So let's just really bank on the double TC, go berries, set up farm near the Aachen Chapel, which is very cost effective. Your farmers will carry 40% more home, and will also work 40% faster. And if you stack that with the wheelbarrow, things can get pretty damn crazy. So here, Scout battling the wolf, nothing terribly exciting. China just doing the Grand Theft Venison, so they're going to be pretty good on food. And man, this is a huge food boom for China. If you take a look at the resources, they're just banking a ton of food, and I'm nowhere near them as it pertains to food. The income per minute on food, obviously better than myself, and it's only going to get better here because the supervisor is providing so much. That's a really cool strategy. For those of you guys who are Chinese players out here, you can essentially just go Grand Theft Venison, use the supervisor to, watch basically the building that the deer are being dropped off at. You can get a massive food lead on your opponent. As a matter of fact, he goes to the third age very quickly here, and it is going to be the astronomical clock tower. No surprises there. It's just like such a goddamn good landmark. So still just jacking my deer, and I do have the double TC. Now let's go ahead and do a little bit of an eco evaluation. My opponent's sitting at 32 villagers, and myself, I'm at 38, and it is climbing. Of course, a little bit of a dreaded supply block there, but we should be getting past that in just a moment by building up this house here. And I do know that there's quite a bit of food down here. There's actually berry bushes, there's deer, and just a freaking wolf pack. Jesus, look at that. There's like 4 wolves down here. They tend to lurk near the relics, which is very annoying. I wish there was, aside from Roos, I don't think any other prelates, monks, priests can fight. Yeah, I don't think any of them can. But yeah, nasty food theft here from China. Looking at income per minute now, we're starting to catch up a little bit. He did have that very nasty boom in terms of food, but he's still only on 1 TC. So I'm hoping that, just the prevalence and the villager advantage will give me some good map control. So the composition is going to be men-at-arms, fully upgraded, of course, big, thick men-at-arms, and you can use siege engineering. So that's kind of what I've been doing, is using men-at-arms and just, making rams when necessary. And that's how I use my wood. And then I build knights as well. So it's a very gold-intensive build, and honestly, I would not recommend this build if you do not get relic control. If your opponent is able to deny you the regnets and deny you the relics, then you're probably just going to have a bad time and not be able to afford all those very gold-intensive units. But if you can get them, it's going to be a little bit better. So back to fast forwarding here, scouting. You can see my scout up here does find some of the relics, and I do have the prelates preemptively coming out. The Regnitz Cathedral has come up in the back, so that is going to potentially be generating quite a bit of gold. And here you can see this prelate grabbing the gold. The villagers do protect him from, the big bad wolf over there. And now we're just going for those relics. China, very defensive, but they are going for the Springald spam, and they are the Clock Tower Springald. So the Clock Tower does produce artillery with 50% more health, which is crazy good because Springalds typically take 3 shots to destroy from another set of Springalds. So a lot of high level games really do come down to Springald spam. I do think mass cavalry can counter it with good timings and positioning, but these ones are much tougher to kill. 50% more HP is quite substantial, and I think it puts them up to 4 or 5 shots per to kill. So that is actually one of the edges that China can have. And here my opponent does unlock the Song Dynasty, which I don't know if we can look at it here in the replay, but Song Dynasty does reduce the building time of your villagers by 30%, give or take. So I don't know if it's cost or building time. I think it's building time. So yeah, he can, kind of eco a little bit more efficiently on 1 TC here. As far as the economy for my opponent, he does have 39 villagers. Looking at myself right now, we're at 46, and of course, it wouldn't be me if I wasn't supply block, but we immediately come out of the supply block, so we're actually pretty much fine in that regard. So the Regnitz Cathedral is going to be generating 200 gold a minute in accordance as you would think here, looking at the tooltip, but it does do 200% more gold. So each relic is going to be generating 300. So if you have 3 relics in here, you're going to be getting 900 gold a minute, which is crazy good. And that's really how HRE can sustain all that armor. And again, if you aren't able to get control of the relics, you're going to be having a tough time. Typically, if my opponent denies me relic control, I'll either go really aggressively all in. I'll use men-at-arms and rams. Maybe think about getting the Burgrave Palace. If, for example, you're playing against a Civ and they just happen to get, Castle Age ahead of you and grab them, you have to kind of change up your game plan because Regnitz is only really good if you can get those relics. So going stables, going barracks, not really going to be messing around with basic archers. Archers aren't going to be effective against Springald spam, and I figured that's what he was doing. I actually played against a couple Chinese players on ladder, and yeah, some of them were, I think one of them was just the absolute Terminator. I can't remember how that game went, but yeah, it was mainly just Springald spam, just all day, right? And yeah, here comes more. Clock Tower Springalds are here. And now we have secured a little bit of a wall off here, and I know that Springalds aren't very good at, you know, getting through barricades like this, so I'm just going to be setting up like wooden palisades wherever I can to try and secure my lands and cordon off the map from my opponent. So we do get the Sacred Site here, so Sacred Site will give us 100 gold a minute. My opponent very persistent here, coming into the Grand Theft of Venison, so the great Chinese scouts will come around here, and I was so happy. I was like, yes, I finally get a deer camp. My opponent's not going to take it from me. But alas, he does roll down here with the scouts. He attacks my prelate there, who is an absolute G, and takes it, and then he steals the food right from my mouth here, and is going to be retreating away. But this time, I do see it coming, and some of my heavy knights as well as my men-at-arms are going to be intercepting. Fat lances right in the face, and several of the scouts are going to be dragged down. So we will be getting 3 of these guys, and that felt really good. He had been stealing the deer all game, and I was like, finally, we deny them a little bit, but look how many deer he has. I mean, this 7 times 350 food just kind of waiting there for him, but he's still only on 1 TC. Income per minute, I'm ahead on most resources, especially on gold because of the Regnets, and he is going to be getting a 2nd TC now, so this will give him the opportunity to potentially catch up and do well for himself. So still hunting down the scout here. I believe it is a little bit faster. Scouts do have 1.62 movement speed, and the heavy knights do have 1.62 as well, so yes, the same speed. Figured I'd set up a couple outposts here and just kind of build some Springald emplacements on them. It's pretty good for stopping Springald pushes, and also I wanted to get control of the Sacred Site. So here my forces are going to be moving up into the center, trying to get some control, and we will be pulling more and more forces, getting more barracks and more stables, just kind of going for that infrastructure here. While the scout in the back, I'm keeping it here to see if he wants to go for the Sacred Site. And we will also be going down and grabbing these relics. Looking at my vision on the map here, you can see I just now discovered this relic was here with the scout, throwing my horsemen, so we'll try our best to get that. Now his Springalds do move up, and he is going to be popping me right in the face, and I saw this army and I was like, hell no, I'm not charging into that. Now maybe I could. It would be a very bloody fight. You know, I'd probably lose like 3 or 4 knights on the charge. He'd pull back and just kite me back to his base, and I would lose most of my army. Maybe get some ground off him, but it wasn't worth the dive, in my opinion. I wanted to get a critical mass of horsemen, really play the late game, and take advantage of the Regnitz Cathedral here. So now the knights and men-at-arms just kind of backing up. I have a wall going down here. I wanted to build a wall here, but alas, with his Springald position, he's going to pop me pretty good. So his army composition looks like it is going to be men-at-arms, or the Palace Guard, the unique unit. So if you guys haven't seen them before, they basically have less armor, but they're faster, and I believe they hit about the same. Yeah, I don't think they hit harder. Granted, the HRE men-at-arms will absolutely trash can them. The HRE men-at-arms do have the +6 versus heavy, so they basically hit for 19 damage against these men-at-arms, whereas these men-at-arms return the favor at 12. And of course, they're subtracting the armor value from that, but even still, it's very, very favored. And here we're going to be building a keep. This is one of my favorite things about HRE, are these aggressive keeps. Obviously, China is really going to struggle to deal with Holy Roman keeps until the Imperial Age, because trebuchets can kill them, but it takes like 45 minutes if you have the emergency repairs nearby. Still just mustering the force, setting up more stables. Just stables, stables, stables. I just want a shit ton of horsemen to dive those artillery pieces, because I know you guys don't want to see Springalds spam, so I'm going to be trying my best to stop those without using Springalds, and I felt like trying to compete in that regard against China just wasn't going to be a great idea. So my opponent up here scouting things out, looking to see if I've taken any ground up here, but the gold is pretty safe. These 2 gold nodes in the center are going to be very important, but the HRE can kind of do without them, simply because the Regnitz is just such a value train. And you can see that prelate there was able to grab the relic on the other side of the map, and now we're stonewalling off the south, just trying to keep him from bull rushing in or sneaking. But again, with his army composition, I figured it wouldn't be that type of game. So he does have a trebuchet here, going to be shooting in, but you can see the little Springald emplacement almost actually snipes his treb here, but just sheer volume of fire, he's pounding it in there. I could have used emergency repairs, but I wanted to save it for the keep. I didn't know how many trebs he had, and you can see the unholy legion of Springald shooting in, but again, they're doing 1 damage against the keep, because the keep has 75 ranged armor, and Springald's, of course, well, I guess plus 20 for siege, but yes, the 60 is mitigated down by the 75 armor. So we're doing pretty good there, and now I get my cavalry, and I go up and around. So I crept here, I set up another keep here because I have a ton of stone, and I have cavalry in his base, so we're getting some pretty good eco damage, taking out villagers. I have some of my heavy knights in his base, and you know, the big thick German infantry will come in eventually, but the knights, they have to get their due, and hopefully we will be able to take out a fair amount of villagers, but more importantly, we are going to be stopping him from mining for a period of time. It's going to kind of screw things up a little bit, and here you can see he's grabbing a relic of his own, and my knight's going for the kill, and we do take him down, which is going to be delaying his drop-off, and now all the Springalds are coming back. Look how fast they are. It's pretty crazy. But, you know, we did a lot of eco damage. He hasn't been mining. It's going to take APMs to get these workers back into business, and in the meantime, I'm just setting up more and more keeps here in the center, just really trying to solidify my position and make sure he can't get this gold node. Because China, I've been in that position many times. I played China quite a bit, I would say, but again, I'm not nearly as good as this gentleman is at China. But, you know, they can get gold starved, right? Like, I find that it's hard for them to get the same map control that other civilizations can. I guess they could power build keeps and defensive buildings, but Yeah, the Springald's really fighting over the center, trying to build up this keep here, and looking at his vision. I don't know if he can even see me through the forest here. Let's go ahead and take a look. Yeah, you can see the stealth force. He can't even see me building a keep right here, which I love so much. But now on the other side of the map, my horsemen have hid here, and I do have an outpost coming up. So I have a secret agent worker going around the top of the map looking to deny that sacred site. And now these knights are going to be coming in to go after his village because he probably has moved out of that dynasty. I don't know if he has, but that will be taking away 40 supply from him, which is pretty substantial. Now his villager count is up to 92. He's caught up very well, and I'm at 79. So I kind of pumped the brakes on villagers, and he was able to catch me using that Chinese dynasty, which gives him the 30% faster villager production rate. So very well played to my opponent, really getting back in the game in that regard. The military score for myself is 52 in terms of supply, and for him it's 51. So he has certainly taken a little bit of an edge there, but I will be getting Imperial Age very soon. We're going to be setting up the Palace of Swabia up here and hopefully getting some goods there. And here the village has been burned down, so he is going to be losing a little bit of supply. And on the other side, I do have some basic horsemen who have come. They took out his priest, and now we're going to be doing, or the monk I should say, and we're going to be taking that sacred site. So got to take advantage of the fact that his army is just like a giant moving potato, right? It's very slow, very punishing, of course. If you try and engage it head on, you're going to take a ton of damage on the charge. But I need to just like harass, I need to be annoying, make sure he's not getting sacred sites, and make sure he's gold starved essentially, so he can't rebuild the Springalds later in the game. So Spirit Wave's coming up, my opponent going Imperial Age. The palace, I suppose it wasn't built yet, but I thought it was very close. Looking at banked resources, I'm pretty sure I was saving up, or no, not quite. So I suppose, yeah, he gets the Imperial Age quite a bit ahead of me, so that's going to be a little bit scary. But the horsemen do come around. He sends a bunch of Palace Guard. Palace Guard are pretty weak against like heavy cavalry, but again, pretty good at just like holding, and they're fast and maneuverable. So with like a mobile Springald based build, they can keep up and certainly do some work. So moving back in with Lancers once again, going to be jumping into the villagers. And now we are going to be grabbing the sacred site in the middle. I have 2 keeps set up. We do also have a TC here. You can extend the aura. I could have built a bunch of houses to extend the aura of my primary TC, but I figured, hey, it's not going to hurt. I could build more villagers if I need to, and it will give me the immediate emergency repairs here as needed. So more and more cavalry moving in, going to be going after his villagers, forcing him back once again, but the Springald Legion just unleashing hell and just popping down my heavy cavalry, whereas these horsemen did do a little bit of a raid. He's got this big gold in the corner, so I had a little bit of a chub to try and shut that down. I was like, I need to punish that. I got to make sure he's not getting the goods there. And the Palace Guard coming back to try and intercept the cavalry, but we do put a little bit of a good old Muhammad Ali rope and dope on him there, and we lean against the ropes and bounce back, and now we're going to be jumping on the villagers, getting a fair amount of eco damage. So Lance is couched, baby, for Sigmar, and we get in there, and the official running for the hills. The Palace Guard are able to get in there, but the Knights should be able to put up a decent fight against them. In the meantime, my main army does push up in the center, and some of the Palace Guard were out of position because the Springalds went back there to help, and I was able to do a lot of damage to his army, so now we are going to be retreating back into our lands. All up here, we have our Knights continuing to fight, but the Palace Guard do have the numerical advantage, and many of my units back here are horsemen. He's an Imperial Age, I'm not, but the Palace of Swabia is coming. So we're going to be trying to get that going. As far as the score goes, this is like a dead even game. I'm at 5,900. He's at 57. I mean, that's a pretty negligible score. He is an Imperial Age, but we do have 2 sacred sites. We have a bunch of keeps in the middle, and the economy for myself is just way ahead. I mean, this is the gold starving. That's why I'm putting this position up. So if I see him go on this gold, I can press him off it. I can use the keeps to fall back if need be, and just trying to take all this gold, because we're getting 2,000 a minute. He's getting 400. Granted, he is killing me on lumber, which means he's going to be able to go bananas. Yeah, the Chinese officials have been very effective. His Chinese official play is quite cool, getting just a ton of resources here. Now on the backside of the map, the gold vein, the big veiny gold vein is going. He's got a couple Palace Guard going. The horseman coming in for round 2, and it looks like he's setting up a market, probably with the intent to get a big trade route going down here and just, get that gold. Because other than that, he's not going to have a hard time getting gold once he does finish this off. So the Knights coming in again, going after the villagers, and now we have a big metal legion of Holy Roman Knights coming in. And they're going to be circling about while the main force of infantry just kind of chills out. I am building some siege workshops in case I need to build bombards later to crack his base or something. But the Knight's doing pretty good, and right now we're trying to torch down his production building here to actually just kill the drop-off point. My opponent does see it, reacts pretty quickly. This might burn down here. I do turn away at the last second because I wanted to save some of these units. And I know most of his supply is tied up in Springalds, right? Looking at his army, I mean, he's almost maxed out here. He's got 47 military supply, a ton of eco as well, but a lot of supply in those. So, he can't be everywhere at once. If he does move the Springalds back there, what I had been doing is pressing into the front of the base, torching buildings, really trying to put him in a bit of an awkward position. So now the big, thick, Holy Roman force going to be moving through the forest. Lances will be couched for the real world Sigmar, for the Emperor. And here they come, man. So they're going to be trying to get through. Only a couple of Palace Guard protecting all of these villagers back here. And now the infantry are going to be going through the forest, the stealth ambush. I figure, you know, he can't really crack my position easily with what he has. So let's harass from multiple flanks. You can see the Palace Guard defense is really, really crushed there. Now my opponent's going to be panic building a keep. But China builds so fast, but so many of these knights are going to get in there, and they should be able to just massacre a ton of these workers, because you can only fit 15 workers in there. So the villagers just getting cut to pieces, taking some pretty massive eco damage. Whereas on the other side, you can see my Holy Roman infantry are able to push in and really just cut through these guys. Villagers taking massive damage. We're going to be moving for the TC here and trying to torch that bad boy. So back to the normal perspective, I do get the good old Springald Legion coming into poke. So the men-at-arms going to be retreating back into the shadowy forest. While over here, the knights just have an absolute field day. I wish I could see like the villagers lost count. I know in StarCraft you can kind of have that sort of UI information. I hope that's something that Relic considers adding. We also take out the monk there, a little bit cute, but my opponent still has a decent little gold economy considering. I didn't get all of them, and my knights will be doing their thing. So at this point, you know, the wheels started turning in this old boomer head of mine, and I basically figured, hey, let's go ahead and get siege engineering, pop that bad boy off, and just hide in the forest here. And every time he pushes out, let's just send like 10 battering rams into his base and see what kind of work we can do. Our gold income is just insane. We have 4 relics. We have the Regnits plus the monastery, so we're just getting a ton of gold off that, plus 2 sacred sites. So 2 sacred sites is 200, plus the relic and not in the Regnits is 300. So 1,200 gold a minute we're essentially just getting for free. And we're not even really mining gold right now. I mean, I guess we have this little node over here, but it's pretty insubstantial. So he's building up a keep right here, and now he's got triple bombard cannons, and these are clock tower bombards, and you can build things 200% faster with the Chinese official. So basically, China only needs the clock tower. You know, I've often built like several siege workshops with China, but all you need is clock tower. And if you supervise it 200% faster, it's basically, going to be the value of several of those bad boys. Now my infantry are going to be moving in once again, and due to the stealth forest here, he's actually not able to really see this, right? Looking in, you can't see anything in this area. So I'm able to get all these ambushes with my infantry, and many of the villagers are going to be scurrying for the hills, which is going to be disrupting his income pretty substantially. And we do have the keep coming up here, but he is able to use his clock tower bombards to just nuke my keep down. I was like, oh god, getting a little bit tense. So now I'm just massing horsemen here in the base while the infantry move in, and they are actually able to torch down the Chinese TC. And you can see how dominant the HRE mace-wielding infantry are here against the big elite palace guard. So a little bit of an interesting factoid. The HRE mace upgrade gives +6 versus heavy. The other upgrade gives +2 damage overall and +3 armor piercing damage. So the maces are actually 1 damage more effective against armored targets, whereas the two-handed weapons are more effective against non-armored targets by quite a bit. But in this case, I wanted to stay with maces. That's why I didn't upgrade to the two-handed maces, because his entire army was palace guard, which are heavy. So I basically am getting 1 more damage than I would if I upgraded to the two-handed weapon. Yeah, the two-handed maces, they would be able to kill, the villagers a little bit quicker, but overall, I still think in this situation that was the right call. Now we got a lot of cavalry diving in, so I wanted to kind of push him back, and I knew I would probably lose my army here. But you can see a lot of the Springalds are getting torched down by the cavalry. Palace guard shooting, and the Springalds just kind of sitting. I wonder if adding a minimum range for those. I don't know. But anyways, the cavalry are just going to ham on these Springalds, but if these were regular Springalds, right? They would probably go down much quicker, but the clock tower with the extra HP is making them much tankier, and we are getting good damage, but the army is running quite thin. But in the back, I am mustering more forces, and in the base, you can see the men-at-arms are definitely causing quite a bit of havoc, just running about, taking out infantry. We took down the TC right there, and I am just putting all my resources into the artillery. I know that he's gold-starved, right? So the idea is if I can take out his expensive artillery, he's not going to be able to rebuild. And now you can see those are some small Springald numbers. I think in total here he's got 6, and before he probably had 15. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to get the bombards, but it's not the end of the world. And now we do have our dudes back here just building rams, and check this out, just out of his vision. So he has no idea I'm building rams back here. The good old HRE Ramstein, as we like to call it. And we're just building keeps everywhere, just trying to be annoying and be very, very sticky and kind of tough to get rid of here. So we're getting that gold node. It is almost down. The Regnits and all of the sacred sites giving us a ton of gold here. The Springald armies aren't very good at pushing. We are mustering a big fat army here in the back. Also built a culverin just to get a little bit of sniping going. I don't know. I just got excited. I don't know why I did that. And another TC is being built for China. In the meantime, Battering Ram Legion is going, and the Chinese artillery is moving forward, and they're going to start hitting my keep pretty damn hard here. You can see that keep is getting the business. Those men-at-arms may be thinking about moving in, and the emergency repairs were used, which is going to keep it up live a little bit longer. But against Imperial Age artillery, it's not going to be super fluid. And yeah, he's able to just pound down my keeps here, but we got more and more keeps. Also, I think I have some stone mining that's going to be going down up there, which is very, very fun. And in the back of the base, things are getting hog wild again, going after the old landmarks. The backdoor Ramstein do host all up in this game. And the elite men-at-arms now going to be moving over to the battering rams while his artillery and Springalds continue to just push and definitely give me some heavy problems. But, just buying time with these backdoor attacks, Here we're setting up a keep as well as a monastery next to a sacred site. I'm like, let's just take it, man, because again, his artillery can't be everywhere at once. And if it wants to move across the map, my cavalry can alpha strike and really catch them out of position here. While the rams are about to finish off the barbecue of the sun, I think I actually have some men-at-arms hidden in one of these rams. I can't quite remember what I did with them. Yeah, you see, I hide them in the ram here so I can pop them out, and a couple palace guards you move back there. But the barbecue of the sun is going to be going down. Then we have the TC, the Imperial Academy, plus the clock tower, I think are going to be the ones. Although with China, is China actually harder to defeat because they have more landmarks in that regard? That's kind of interesting. But he does extend, and now the Rohirrim have come. They're going to be diving in, jumping on those clock towers. Just, I can't tell you how frustrating it is to like deal with mass spring ults and artillery, but that moment, that euphoric moment when you finally jump on top of those guys, and now you can see they're getting torched pretty good. He's got a couple palace guard, but the elite knights are super thick in terms of armor, almost fully upgraded. There's like one upgrade I haven't gotten yet. And the Chinese artillery is getting torched pretty bad, while in the main base, the men-at-arms are basically jumping on the farms. The battering rams are getting into the cookie jar, and this is looking to be the beginning of the end for China, as down here we do also have this keep up, which is going to be stealing that sacred site, and also denying the market trade. So the men-at-arms, definitely pretty good at split pushing here. I mean, China with that kind of artillery spam build. Hopefully this game was a little bit of a roadmap on how to deal with like a, mass artillery builds. Now, had this been Mongols, I would have been in way more trouble, right? Like, China is just objectively weaker than the Mongols in pretty much every way, except that they can build walls, and their artillery is a little bit tougher. But the Mongols, for example, they would have YAM networks everywhere, so their artillery would be moving like as fast as infantry. So they could cover that ground and really deny these split pushes much more effectively. Plus, they would just be getting extra gold from like the steppe readout and things like that. I really feel like China needs some buffs overall. I don't know. Yeah, like HRE is kind of in a weird situation as well. They're like two civs that are rarely played, but the Holy Roman Empire, I think, has like more tools. Like their men-at-arms, the Regnitz Cathedral is an insanely good landmark that can allow them to compete with pretty much everyone. But overall, I think that China does need some buffs or some tweaks, or some of the other civs need to be brought into line. I don't really know what approach Relic is going to be taking to that, but if you were to put French Mongols, kind of tone them down a little bit, I think we could see a pretty healthy meta overall. Like Delhi is actually very strong. I think England is an elite tier, like really good faction. They're not as good as like the Mongols or the French, but I think England is pretty close. Like they're a solid A tier faction. China just really struggles. HRE has some good matchups, but some really bad ones. In my experience, it's very tough to play the Holy Roman Empire against the French and some of those more heavy-duty factions. Now we have another army coming, so we have mustered a bunch of elite men-at-arms here, and the knights are also circling about, going to be looking to get into the backfield. We do have all three sacred sites, and now my opponent's artillery looking very bare, and the big, thick force will come in, take out the villagers, and push into my opponent's base, and that will probably be the end of the road here for China, as the men-at-arms will be doing some big damage. You can also see the torches popping into the keep, and I believe we had some artillery shooting from downtown, but just with those sheer numbers, and this is all armor too, and that's what I really love about this Regnitz build. If you can get it online and just have like your entire army be so thick and meaty like this, man oh man, it can be nasty. And the men-at-arms, yeah, cutting through the palace guard pretty well. Palace Guard do have the extra HP upgrade. It does not look like he got it yet. So Palace Guard actually can get up to over 200 HP, which makes him very, very tanky and resilient. Actually a really solid unit. Palace Guard are pretty good at chasing down artillery, but that is going to be the end of the road. GG, well played to my opponent. Big shout out to him for playing the Chinese. Again, not too many people do it, but I think this was around like 1400 ELO or something. And, I think he mainly plays China. So, like, yeah, probably if this guy was playing on like French or English or anything like that, or Mongols more specifically, he would just be the unholy terror in the night. So let's go ahead and take a look here at Old Breakdown. Let's see if it'll let us see it. Unfortunately, it will not. Although maybe we can go to the match history here and check this out. And can we look at the score here? Yes, we can look at the statistics. So in terms of resources overall, that's going to be the more interesting aspect of things. Yeah, look at the gold difference. 38,000 against 18. He did pretty good on wood, and the food obviously was pretty advantageous for us too. Having the Regnitz Cathedral, the Aachen Chapel surrounded by farms just gives you a crazy amount. But yeah, it was a really good game. We were obviously able to capture the artillery a couple times with the cavalry, just have those attrition trades because we could throw our army away and reproduce expensive units with the gold advantage we had. And that really was the tale of the tape. So GG, well played to my opponent. Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing these two underrepresented civilizations go in fisticuffs, and I'll be trying to get some more of those games coming up soon. Appreciate you all. See you next time, and take care.